All right, so do we have everybody? Looks like we do. All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order at 5:01. Don't think we need to do anything for the prioritizing the meeting. So we will go to recognition of groups or individual visitors. And Mark, I don't know if you wanted to introduce.
Yeah, this is Alice Sharks, our French teacher at Green Street School, and this year she actually organized a field trip to leave the country to visit Canada. So she's here to present a video and talk a bit about the trip and answer any questions you may have.
Perfect. And if everybody doesn't mind, we might as well start with that. So, yeah.
Okay, great. So this is exciting because it's the culmination of my thinking about doing this trip for about 7 years with a 6th grade class. And this year was the year when it came to fruition. And I started planning it in September. And it was open to all students in 6th grade who wanted to participate, regardless of how long they had been studying French. And a little over half the class participated ultimately, and in fact some more would have participated, but there was of course scheduling conflict at the very end when we got our final date in May. And you'll see this is a montage here, so it's going to not necessarily go in order, so I'll just say what order we went in, which was first we gathered here at Green Street School in the morning. We left by about 7 a.m. or so, 7:15 a.m. And then we drove up, we stopped along the way, got to the border, had a pretty uneventful border crossing. We ended up using the small border crossing at, I'm blanking, but the small one, which they, once we got there, told us that was not a good idea to have done because we had one larger van. We drove our own vans. We had four staff involved. We had myself, Miranda Sachs, who's a speech and language pathologist. We had Diane Claude, who's AST enrichment coordinator, and we had Patrick Ackerman Hovis, who's a parent and also has been worked at Green Street School for many years. So all of us knew the kids pretty well. And okay, so then we crossed in. We came first. We went to Magog, Quebec, which is just across the border up 91. You essentially go to Newport, cross the border, take the first left, and there's Magog. It's at the very tip of Lake Magog, which crosses the country, the two countries. They even have a swim crossing in the summertime where you can swim between two countries. It's cold. Then we had lunch at a cafe, so you're going to see that pretty early on. The kids all ordered their food in French, which we had practiced. And then we went to a school. We met with a 6th grade school, classroom of kids who were studying English, but all of our activities were in French, which was really what I wanted for my kids. And actually it was kind of a perfect level. In other words, the Quebec kids really didn't have very excellent English, and we didn't have very excellent French, so it was a perfectly very excellent, they had to work at it, which was great. Afterwards, we walked into town, we got ice cream, we went to like a consignment shop, kind of like Experienced Goods, which was one of the hits of the whole day for our kids. Then we walked down to the lake, we looked for the monster, there's a famous monster, did not see the monster. And then we walked over to the grocery store and they did a scavenger hunt in French, looking for things all around the store, and then they bought things for themselves for dinner for their way home, and then we drove home. And we came home around 10:30 at night, so that was the length of the trip. So now we're going to do it in about 3 minutes. This is the hands. How many people, this is their first time crossing to another country?
What's the deal with our chocolate?
Yeah, right. It was even too much for some people, hard to imagine. So this is our classroom, back classroom. So they had 8 different stations for us, for the kids to rotate through. They spent about 6 or 7 minutes in each station playing a game, and then they switched. So they went through, as I said, 8 stations. At the school, the kids played together. So, there you go. So if you'd like to ask questions or not.
Did you choose did you know that ketchup was on the list of things that the Canadians are going to impose a tariff on?
Oh, no.
Yeah, just announced today.
Oh, all right.
Don't know if you had that planned or not.
Yeah,
When you mentioned that they were allowed to come on the trip no matter how many years they had been studying French,
no. Yeah.
is it not something that's done all of the grades?
It is, but for instance, kids transfer into school at different times. So there's one of the kids in the trip I can think of right offhand just came this year from another school.
And how do you
So-
handle that if you're teaching a group of 6th graders who've been studying it since kindergarten and then in comes one kid who doesn't know it at all?
So it's a good question, and I mean, kids come in at all different times over the course of the 7 years. So some kids come in at 2nd grade or 4th grade or 6th grade. It's always like that. In other words, every year there's always new kids coming in, and it's just a matter of jumping in where they can access it and learning what they can from that year's curriculum, and then either moving forward with their class, or in this case, the 6th grader, all he's doing is the 1 year, and then either going on in middle school or not. But yeah, I try and since we start new material every year, some things carry through and some things I start new. When it's a new thing, particularly, it's great for those kids. But when it's an older thing, I try and give them materials, so that they see it. They see the information from what other people have had.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought about that. Kids transferring in are going to be way behind their peers in that area.
Yeah. But it seems to me, over all these years of teaching there, that kids who have an interest in learning globally, they get lots out of it, and it doesn't seem to affect them. They will say, oh yeah, I don't know quite as much vocabulary, but they still seem to be able to pick up on it. So even kids who've been there for 7 years don't necessarily know more than kids who've been there for a year. It can happen like that, yeah.
Now, is this something you want to try to do every year, or also reciprocate and have the Canadian school that you visited come down?
Yeah, so both those things, yeah, both. I would love to continue it each year, and I talked to this teacher when I was there about the idea of bringing her kids down to visit us, so that might happen hopefully this fall. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Thanks
you.
so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Sometimes just to keep it.
Just do the, Go down, what's on?
We also have to.
Okay, so we'll do Deb.
Nothing is all first.
So we will skip over and we'll have Deb. We will go on, that way we can talk about the Antioch and then we can leave what you got.
Okay, if you say so.
So they're setting up, or, so, you know, the Antioch intern program is now, has first year successful. So we started that this school year with 3 interns at Academy. It's been a great year, and Deb is here to talk about the year and moving forward.
Yeah, so as you know, we piloted last year, and that was a really great year. I'm excited to tell you about some of the things that went on, how it went. I don't know how many of you saw that the Reformer did an article about our students, so that's one of our interns, Liz Greco, working with 5th and 6th graders. I'm going to just take a minute and kind of go over our year and what did wind up happening, and then I'll give you an idea of what we're thinking for next year. So this past year, our interns, we had 3 interns. 2 of them were placed with 5th and 6th grade. One was an intern with kindergarten. She started in the kindergarten classrooms and then worked with a special educator and branched out with 1st through 3rd, maintaining some of her work with kindergarten. The 5th and 6th grade interns, one stayed in a classroom and one worked just in special ed. So 2 out of the 3 wound up over the course of the year staying all day. So they were paid as part-time employees, but they stayed all day, at least 4 days, some 5. And their responsibility, so they started out the year with less responsibility, and it grew as the year went on, obviously. They had lunch and recess duty. 2 had a scheduled lunch and recess duty, and the 3rd one really kind of was our pinch hitter, and she subbed for any time we needed anybody, which was actually pretty helpful. By the end of the year, they all were involved with whole class instruction in one case or another, so some more than others. Our kindergarten intern did 2 weeks in 2 separate rooms by her own design. She really wanted a lot of experience with whole class. And then our other 2 interns did at least a week. And yeah, so lots of one-on-one instruction, lots of small group instruction. By the end, and that was kind of like the expectation. What was really fun was they really wound up having an opportunity to really explore a lot of their passions. One of the earlier picture, took on a big gardening project, and she ran a whole garden outside with a group of her readers that she worked with. 2 out of the 3 participated in after-school tutoring throughout the whole year. One of them is going to actually continue to tutor over the summer with a group of special ed students. The kindergarten intern, this one, Sarah, that you see, she also ran a forest time, so she came from an environmental ed background, and she worked with a kindergarten teacher who wasn't as comfortable getting her kids outside, and so she ran that and brought the kids outside with that teacher, kind of her initiative. And then they participated in quite a bit of extra professional development. So the regular professional development that we did as a staff, they were part of, but then there were study groups offered around the district, one with Brian that 2 out of the 3 participated in as well. This is just to give you an idea of what the schedule looked like. They were very busy. This is Sarah's schedule in kindergarten, and she really jam-packed her schedule. She really did a lot of work with small groups, a lot of work with special ed kids, a lot of work with our kids who don't qualify for special ed but who needed additional support. And yeah, they're busy.
Was that by her choice or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she was one that took a really great level of initiative. The other 2, one stayed in the classroom and worked in various levels there. The other one her schedule looked very similar, but that was more designed as a team, where the team really identified their needs. Hers was made with a team, obviously.
Right.
But she wanted to get the most out of her experience that she possibly could. As far as the staff roles went, our cooperating teachers met bi-monthly as a professional learning community, which was really great. Some of the work we did, we talked about how to give effective feedback, how to handle struggles in the classroom, how to support our interns and nudge them along at the same time. That time spent bi-monthly will also be used to qualify them for 3 credits of graduate credit from Antioch University. So I just developed that course. They'll register and then they'll continue over the summer to provide feedback for some of the structures that we'll put in place for next year. For instance, a handbook that lays out some of the timelines and things like that. They also met weekly with their interns, at least, as you see from this schedule. Sarah was in at 7 every morning and meeting every day with her cooperating teacher. Not so much to talk about her, but to plan as a teacher would plan for her day. So they did a lot of heavy collaboration. And then my role, I observed the interns on a weekly basis. I met with them on a weekly basis as well. I met with cooperating teachers bi-monthly in those meetings, but then also separately as needed. There's different times that different things needed to be addressed, not in a struggly kind of way, but in, we have this curriculum that we want to support and how can we support it. And so I would meet with both the teacher and the intern and then help that intern develop curriculum that they needed to support in the classroom. And what was a good surprise was we also had kind of a school benefit, which was, I don't know if you're aware, we ran this In Bloom nature-based learning conference at Academy. This is an Antioch-run conference that is nationwide, and Antioch really wanted to hold it here. So on this day, we had about 150 educators gather at Academy and participate in a variety of workshops around nature-based ed. What was really exciting is it brought people from around our district all to the same setting. So we had folks from Green Street, we had folks from Guilford, from Marlboro as well. So, and we had teachers from Academy as well, teachers and paras. So it really gave me a good little peek into some of the opportunities that we might be able to create through a partnership like this. So looking forward to next year, any questions about that?
So just that picture,
Yeah.
to go back to the picture.
Yeah.
So that picture is adjacent to our playground. That is putting our lawn, our playground area at works to good use. And that little square in there, and those stones are for a campfire.
Yeah, and actually Emily was there all day running a fire. So one of our
Yeah.
teachers came and ran a
Right.
fire for the group.
Those benches were constructed by our custodians for the kids to sit around the campfire, and we do, part of our kindergarten program is they do go out and have campfires during the school day.
And I have to say, so Martin Desford, who was running the workshop there, he's from the UK. He's a pretty renowned guy. And he walked into our forest and he said, oh, I can't fake his accent, but he said, I would give this place a 10. It was very exciting to show off our school like that. Because not only people from our district, but people from around the community were there, appreciating kind of the exciting things that are happening. So you have two sides to this. One side is teachers gave and interns gave kind of their impressions. You don't have to read this now, but it's just to give you a sense of some of the things teachers and interns experienced this year. The other side, I wanted to give you kind of a really basic overview of what we're thinking for next year. So looking towards next year, we'd like to put 2 interns at Green Street. So we'd like to expand and include Green Street in our program. What that would look like is, just basically very similar to what we did at Academy, but on a smaller scale. So we would have 3 interns at Academy and then 2 interns at Green Street. Still have a supervisor on site at both places, and I would coordinate between the 2. So what that looks like at Academy, that's all planned for and set right now. So we've got a teacher in 3rd grade, a teacher in 5th grade, and a teacher in 6th grade who are going to participate. The interns that we've placed are all dual certification, so they're dual cert for special ed and elementary ed, which means they will do one stint, half the year in a classroom and half the year working with a special educator. So we've got 2 special educators also that will work with them. And what they're bringing is also very exciting. So 2 of the interns coming have done extensive amount of work with outdoor ed. So they're very excited to bring some of that expertise. They've run rafting trips, and we're already thinking about a staff retreat. And one of the interns is actually an internal WSESU employee who is coming over and getting her certification after working as a para for years. So that's exciting. And they will be, so this, it'll change a little bit because Antioch's model changed. So this, now we're gonna run from summer through summer. So they'll come in and do both internships over the course of the year. So they'll do one of their internships in the fall and one in the spring, which requires them to stay full day. So they will, although our interns this past year chose to stay the full day, these guys will be required to stay 12 weeks at least of full days. So they'll be paid for their part-time employment. And then those full days that are required, they're aware that that will be part of their fulfillment of their certification requirements. And as far as their on-site supervision, that will stay the same. Daily, they'll have their cooperating teacher that they'll work with. Weekly, they'll have an on-site supervisor and their cooperating teacher. And then bi-weekly, every other week, I would work with them, with all of them.
Can you explain
yes.
who are the on-site supervisors? Is that other staff at the schools?
Yes. So the person that is interested in doing that role next year at Academy would be Orly Hasbani.
Okay.
And so what that would look like is she would, a couple hours a week be released from some of her teaching responsibilities and coach and work with the teachers and the interns.
I see.
So it's a little bit of a coaching role, but also a little bit of also coaching the interns. Because what was exciting that came from this past year was I wasn't just working with our interns, I was working with our teachers. And so it's kind of an exciting opportunity for growth for our teachers as well. Does that make sense? So looking at Green Street, what we're hoping for is to add 2 interns there. We know that 2nd and 4th grade teachers are interested. There would be a special ed component in the spring for these for these spots. Same thing. These interns would be employed part-time. They would be required to stay full days. Their supervision would be the same. We would have an on-site supervisor, and I would coordinate between the 2. What that would look like across the schools, which is kind of an exciting thought, is that the meetings that we have had up till now amongst the staff, the bi-monthly meetings, these meetings could now be held with Green Street and Academy teachers meeting together. So that's great potential for collaboration across schools. The PD that we would have with the mentoring of new teachers will happen during those meetings. Some of the work we did last year is going to inform the things that we focus on next year. Feedback being a huge one. Feedback is a tough thing in mentoring. And then as far as Antioch support, Andy and I have talked briefly about, but I think there's great potential for some of the things Antioch can offer our district in the way of para training. There's people involved with Antioch that know a lot about supervising and playing with kids and encouraging play, and as well as place-based learning and PLCs and these kinds of things. And then of course the conferences, probably that conference would continue to exist and happen in our district. So that's it.
So we wanted to bring this to you tonight, both as an overview of how it went this past year at Academy, but as you heard Deb just say, there are enough interns at Antioch this year that we're hoping we can expand this into Green Street School. Deb and Mark and I have met to look at what the different scenarios would look like. Mark and I have met with Frank to look at finances. We're also looking at title. We got a little bit of an increase in our title funding, so we're hoping that we can tap some of the title funds to also help support it's part-time for the interns, but we also like to be able to give a stipend to the teachers, the cooperating teachers, who do have to do additional work, after-school work to support interns.
And the supervisors
And
as well. right?
supervisors, yeah.
And do you know what that cost was this year? Top of your head?
8.
Well, we didn't have, the only person that got paid this year for supervision was Deb.
Was Deb?
So
Well,
she was
Antioch
the,
pays me.
and- right, and that was her 5th day of work.
Right.
So we took Deb Deb's 5th day with us, we made her a 0.8 employee %, and that chunk of money would have gone to her, went to pay the part of the paras, and she was the on-site supervisor. So now she'll be the coordinator of the 2 sites. And her salary will still get paid by Antioch. So there's no cost there.
And I think increasing the contribution from Antioch is something we can continue to keep on in our minds. They run on a different schedule than we do, so those kinds of decisions are made in the fall. And we needed to wait till spring to know how many interns we had, so I think timing-wise, something we keep in mind.
Just say from Green Street's perspective, the enthusiasm is really high about the potential opportunity. We have a teacher who's really interested in coaching, Brett Tucker, who's been identified as the potential on-site supervisor. Bryn and Deb have spoken extensively about how this would work next year. And we also have some excited teachers to work with some interns. And we feel like we have a school community at this point that can give a lot to future educators, and creating a relationship with a university is a potential that we're really excited about as well, in terms of what could be giving back to us in the future, in terms of future professional development opportunities, relationships with the universities. So we're excited about the potential.
Deb's also shared with me some research on the advantages of helping train what potentially could be our own teachers. And all of the principals sitting around the table have recognized in the past 5 years or so the number of qualified candidates for positions has really dropped off. And so just like we've been working with Kelsey in creating leaders within our own ranks, we need to also consider creating teachers within our, through programs like Deb's brought to us through Antioch. So.
And I can say it's different. I felt a very different feel from these teachers working with these interns, even from when I was a cooperating teacher with interns, because our stamp is now on these people. So there's a definite level of commitment amongst the teachers that worked in this program this year, where we want to make sure that these teachers have everything they need. It's on us, which is a pretty amazing role to play with forming teachers.
I think it creates a great climate for continuing education, and being a part of that at the elementary school level is really exciting to think about.
And you'll notice one of the things that stands out for me is Ellen Nam said she feels like it makes her a better teacher to have an intern in the room.
It really does. I can speak from experience. When you have an intern with you, they start to question, why do you do that particular way? And you have to start really doing a lot of self-reflection. So why do I do that particular way? Is it because I've always done it, or is there a deeper reason? So it really is good professional development for both parties.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need anything, Lyle, or
We should probably get your approval that we can expand our program so that we can include Green Street School next year.
I would say with the understanding that we report to the board about how things are going at some point in the school year.
Yep. Which
So
we did
it's-
with you guys.
With this, if we are making a motion to approve this, is the motion that we are adding these supervisory positions with to create opportunities for interns to come, or are we creating the part-time positions for the interns? What are we doing to create this?
I would say we're approving the expansion of the Antioch internship program so that it will be the same as it was at Academy, but at Green Street. So that means We're approving Antioch interns coming into Green Street. We're approving on-site, what's the term that you're using?
Supervisors.
As well as Deb to continue with her coordinating with Antioch and Town.
And do we need to like allocate funding for this at that point, or is that something that would be worked out?
That's something we're still working out. We're hoping that we're going to be able to use title funds, but.
Okay, I see.
This year they took para positions that were in the budget.
Yeah.
There wasn't
Yeah.
a position.
Yeah.
So we
Oh, I
might
see.
be looking at an additional para position
We might
rather
be,
than
yeah.
just
We're trying
and
not
some-
to,
and
but
some
you're right.
stipends.
Okay.
So then we have a motion.
I move that we approve the expansion of the Antioch internship program to include a supervisor at Academy and Green Street and interns continuing at Academy and adding at Green Street.
Second.
Any discussion?
Does this have anything to do with the budget?
We aren't positive yet. We're hoping that we're going to pay for it through title funds, Title I funds. But as David just said, with Academy, we had used some funds that had been earmarked for para-educator positions. So, for instance, we know right now that Mark has a new kindergarten teacher that's come in much lower on the salary scale than a teacher that was exiting. So we know we have a little bit of money there that we might be able to use toward this. So yes, it does have an impact on the budget, but it isn't going to have an impact on the budget so that we're going over what we've already approved for a budget.
You didn't already spend that money, did you?
I'm hoping you're saying no.
So it's considered a worthwhile trade-off to have this program versus a para, if that's what it
Well,
came down
the
to.
interns are essentially doing the work of a para.
Yeah. They're just highly supervised and motivated compared with a
To do
typical
extra,
parent.
yeah.
And they're there significantly now.
Yeah.
It's not a full-time para, it wouldn't be a full-time para position. It's,
All right, any other discussion?
Very Great innovation.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, I'm passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good meeting.
You as well. We'll have one Deb leave and the other Deb come on up to the table.
It's the night of deaths.
All right, so we'll go back and we will approve the consent agenda. The clerks, the minutes and the audiences. Can I get a motion? Oh,
Move, we approve the consent agenda, sorry.
that's okay.
Confusing.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I would like to add maybe a 3-minute report on some education that I just had. That
To the,
that would be very interesting because it's very relevant to what we do.
you want to add that to the previous minutes?
No,
No, okay.
I want to talk about it for about 2 or 3 minutes.
All right, well, right now we're approving the agenda. It's something you want to add to the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Did you, we can do it towards the end of the other.
Okay.
All right.
The business is done.
Yeah, all right. If everybody approves. 'Cause I know everybody wants to get that before the meeting and any paperwork before the meeting, Spoon.
What's that?
If you had something, if it's something that you wanted to add or share.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's actually some education that I just got today.
Okay, all right. So we'll approve. And any other for discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So committee reports. EES Policy Council, did you meet? I'm looking at the agenda.
It was the
We
joint.
met here, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was our
Did
last
you,
meeting.
there, okay, you didn't have another one. So nothing
There was
further.
one update that I saw, I'm thinking, something that came today, this morning email.
Let's see. We needed to make some changes about so there's a system where we report all of our comings and goings, and we needed to make some changes about how we look at the financing of our slots. Is it that one?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I can report on
Okay.
that in my report.
All right, all right. Did the energy committee meet?
No.
All right. I don't think the alternative governance is met.
No,
No. Finance, we did meet and we approved the transportation, and the new provider will be Kosmuskis. Did I pronounce that correctly? So that is who was approved, was recommended and we approved for the buses for next year. And I believe that was all we did at finance. And we did authorize the superintendent to hire over the summer.
And we'll have some special ones.
Yes. And diversity.
I was not able to attend the last meeting,
Okay.
but I can tell you that they have selected the theme for next year's celebration of diversity, which is going to be Voices of the People and looking at primary sources. And so over the summer, the committee is going to each pick a chapter of Voices of a People's History and start looking at some connections to the present from those. And there's going to be 3 events next year, which is a fall showcase that's going to be November 14th or 15th, a winter arts event of some kind, February 13th or 14th, and then Diversity Day will be next May 3rd.
Right, and we will go on to administrators report. We'll start over here with Mark.
Okay.
Maybe we can end with Andy for his last one.
Make sure.
So just a few things to highlight, end of the year things. On June 7th, we had the 6th graders present their Civil War puppet movie to the school community. And we had a number of parents attend that as well. This is a collaborative effort with the classroom teachers, our art teacher, Rachel Mangine, and also we reached out to Linda Whelan, who's the education director at the Brattleboro Museum. So these folks all worked for a couple of months with our 6th grade students to put together this Civil War puppet movie that was presented to the entire community. It was really well done, and I think it was a great example of mixing content with art, with technology, because our technology integration teacher, Greg Montgomery, was also part of this process as well. So I thought it was a really nice way to show how all these different things can come together and work together. Linda has been working with us on a number of projects throughout the year, and we've had a number of field trips down to the Brattleboro Museum. So we're excited to continue that collaboration next year with her and getting her into our classrooms and also getting our kids down in the museum. It's a great resource and it's walking distance for us. June.
Is that available on YouTube? Or is
It's on our website.
It is, okay, great.
Yep. June 14th, we had our end of the school year extravaganza. This is our 2nd annual extravaganza. We started this tradition last year. And essentially, it's a variety talent show featuring students and staff members. So we had a number of different acts perform, lots of singing acts, lots of rock band acts. We had some comedy shows, some ballet, some gymnastics. It was, we had a ton of parents come to this event because there were such rave reviews from last year's event. And then the culminating project of that day, that morning, is a kind of a year in review slideshow to music. So all in all, it's about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and it goes by like that. It's actually turned into my favorite day of the school year. It's terrific to just reflect on everything that happened and just appreciate teachers and students taking chances, getting on stage, performing when they may not be comfortable doing that. But it's really turned into a nice way to bring a close to the school year. Lastly, kindergarten orientation starts up tomorrow for all 3 schools, 8:30 to 12:30. We'll be visiting with our new kindergarten students, so it'll be exciting to see those fresh faces tomorrow. And then the only last thing I'll add is Rachel Mangine has started this really great tradition this year of creating an online archival project. So every kid in our school is going to have their very own online portfolio. So kids in kindergarten this year, that portfolio will be 7 years in the making of their artwork. So excited about that. And to follow that.
Parents can access that?
What's that?
Parents can access
Yes. Yeah, it'd be a great artifact for parents.
And then, what will be in the portfolio?
All of their artwork.
All of the artwork?
Yep.
Anything else, or just the artwork?
Just that it's focused on art. Yeah.
And then what happens after they leave the elementary school? Is it, does that still remain online?
Yeah, it would go with them. It'd be a great thing for a family to have, to see your artwork and how it developed over a 7-year period. Kind of a special gift, I think.
Is it something they would like email to the parents? Or,
Each kid has their own account, so
Oh,
you
I
can
see.
access it.
it's like on their Google account?
Yeah.
I get it, okay.
So,
Very nice. Right. Thank you. Deb?
So we had our end of the year celebrations by and large last week. And at EES, we purposely call them end of the year because some children are not moving up. There's, if we have 3s and 4s together in one classroom, they'll be continuing. I was able to attend the Canal Street. It was right after the Oak Grove open house or end of the year celebration. At Canal Street, I think I counted about 100 folks. So it was a great turnout. Each of the classrooms based at Canal Street did a little presentation. We did a group sing. It was pretty cute. And we had some food and lots of parents. So it was a really fun and well-attended event. As David was inferring, we are deep in conversation with the regional office about actually positioning ourselves in a way that we might be able to access some federal funds that are coming down called dose and duration. So dose and duration is federal money that is being offered to Head Start programs who might want to extend their day and or their weeks, days, months of service. EES has for many years provided year-round full-day services. So the first time this money was offered a couple of years ago, we were not candidates. The way that we finance our full-day program is that we blend our state money with our federal money. And now the feds are saying, well, we really want you to extend your Head Start part of the day. So when you report to us your hours of operation, we want you to report only the federally funded hours plus the Act 166. And so that leaves for us a gap of hours that makes us now eligible to apply for federal funds. The idea being the feds would like to fully fund Head Start full-day programs. What's exciting is that we can still continue to access the child care, the financial assistance program through the state. So if this actually comes to fruition, we will have more money that we can put in salaries. So the dose and duration announcement, maybe that's, I actually was on vacation today, so I didn't check emails. I did a
No,
few
the
times.
one I was thinking about was the upcoming event, but that was in the back of my mind.
Okay.
That they wanted to know exactly what time was that time, amount of time was that start time.
So the goal, I think, is to have all of the programs in the country operating full day, full year. We've been doing that for a long time, but we've been doing it creatively with federal and state money. And so there will be an allotment of money per state. So each state will receive an allocation. Only 2 of the 7 Head Start programs in Vermont currently have not tapped the dose and duration account, and we're one of them. So we've needed to change the program schedule in the enterprise system, which is the system we report through to the feds. So that's what I was inferring. Nothing, it's all conjecture at this point. We haven't received any kind of confirmation or invitation to apply, but we are positioning ourselves to do that. So that's really exciting from my perspective. Things are doing well. We actually are, you heard at our last meeting, fully staffed in Westminster. Yes. And we just have a couple of gaps here in Brattleboro. It's the closest we've been to being fully funded for quite a while. So we are keeping our fingers crossed. I think that's.
And you have your World Cafe event.
Oh, the World Cafe, you all should have received an invitation today. That is Monday at Allison's Orchard from 12 to 4. We will have lunch from 12 to 1, and then we will go into our questions, which are actually on the flyer. We purposely want people to think about it before they come. And we have intentionally set our tables up with assignments. We haven't included guests, but we will intersperse our guests at each of the 8 tables so that we have a cross-section of staff. So that's happening on Monday, and then on Tuesday afternoon, we will host an open house to celebrate Carol Castine's retirement from EES. She's been with us for 24 years. And Senator Balint will be here to give her a special commendation. So please, if you can make it, it will be from 4 to 6, somewhere around there. Senator Balint is hoping to make a presentation at 5.
Could you give me the range of pay that you have now for your staff?
Off the top of my head, no. Are you talking about teachers or all the support staffs?
Well, could I start with the support staff and?
I really couldn't give that to you off the top of my head. I can tell you that some of the positions are paying barely over minimum.
They're what they're paying, what?
Barely over minimum wage.
Just a little over minimum
Yeah.
wage? So that's sort of the bottom.
That's the bottom. We are going to do the crosswalk that you requested. We, if you remember, we gave an increase last month. We increased with a COLA, and we actually adjusted some positions. So we want to take those new rates and crosswalk with the district rates and give that report to you. I have looked at the benefit package. I can respond to that to tell you that it's very comparable. There are some slight differences in that. So basically, the benefit package that we have for our EES employees matches that of the non-union employees of the district. So the parents, I guess, would be comparable. The only difference, I think, was in the retirement match. So EES offers 4% to match a 1% contribution by the employee. The district asks the employee to contribute more than 1%. I think it's 2, and then they match with 4.
Right. And I know we are going to talk about this. It's on our August agenda. So I know Deb will have the information for you then too.
Thank you.
So, Lottie, we might as well go around the horseshoe.
Sure. So we also actually had a celebration this week. Jean Gilbert is retiring after 20-plus years working in our office. So we had a cookout celebration on Monday. Jean was quite moved. We put together a slideshow of pictures of her from various things that she's done around. She's quite community civic-minded and does things throughout the community, and we were able to grab pictures from all kinds of different things and had a little slideshow, and was able to have a nice luncheon for her for the last week. So it was nice. I'm going to hand you out the budget and just remind you that if you have questions about the budget, if you would please send them to Jill, and Jill will send them on to Frank. We've been trying to put that into practice so that Frank isn't getting a similar question from many different people. So if they all go to Jill, Jill can compile any questions that you have and then send those on to Frank. Plus that gives you a chance to review the budget. So I do need to tell you that this is not year end, because obviously it's June 20th and we're not at the year end. We still have outstanding invoices. Preliminary year end report will be ready around August 15th, so we should be able to bring that to the August retreat. And then of course the final year end report doesn't won't be ready until after the auditors wrap up, and that's in October. So this is the May 31st report. Just to give you, if you want to look on the very last page, page 13. You can see that the general budget in the first column on the left, the first column of numbers, is $14,547,000. If you go over to the year to date, we're at $12,457,000. We have a balance of a little over $2 million, but still encumbering about $2 million as well. So right now we have a budget balance of a little over $46,000. It's likely, according to Frank, that we will be running a slight deficit this year, and that's mostly due to the healthcare recapture. And you can remember that the governor and the legislature last year, after all budgets were passed, passed the law that we would have to send money back if we didn't settle our healthcare at the rate that they had stated. So for Brattleboro Town, it's $92,000. We anticipate that the HRA this year will offset some of it, but there's still likely to be a deficit, plus or minus 1%. The general fund at the start of the year, if you can, you might remember, was just about $1 million. Frank, I think, had reported that earlier. So after some other movement of some monies, there will be enough money to cover any deficit that we have going into end of the year.
So you're saying, despite the fact that it looks like we will have leftover money,
We
we'll
will
have to end up owing that because of the healthcare penalty?
Yes, because of the healthcare penalty. So, looking at 46 right now is our balance. We know we're going to own 92,000.
Right,
So.
okay.
Any other call tomorrow?
Okay.
So yeah, so everybody just take a look at it at home and send your questions to Jill. All right. Jerry.
Okay, I'll talk about pre-K first. Last Friday, we had our little pre-K celebration move-up ceremony. It was our first pre-K graduating class, if you will. The teachers prepared these students with maybe 3-4 songs, and they were too shy to do it in front of the whole school, but we did encourage them to do it in the gym, and we set up a little riser, and so the families came. It was really cute. They got little certificates, and then we had food and celebration. So anyway, that was great. So Friday was their last day. Pre-K moving into next school year we are full. Right now we have 3 siblings that are part of our pre-K program. 7 Head Start slots are full. And we're at like 14. So our license is actually for 15. I always like to keep one
in the back pocket.
One in the back pocket, that's right. So I kind of say that we're full. And I have 1 or 2 people right now that have shown an interest. And so if it comes to the place, in August, we'll probably fill that spot if they're still looking. So we had a large, beautiful all-school sing ceremony honoring Andy Davis's retirement. It was as much of a surprise as we could do. All we pretty much told him is like, don't plan anything because we have something planned. So each grade, we put a chair in the middle because he's usually on stage, so we put him down in front, and then each class sang a song. We had Peter Amadon and friends. I mean, the whole stage was filled with fiddlers and musicians that came, and he did some calling. So we had anyway, it was a lot of fun, and he was very touched, but well deserved. Also, if you come by the school, something I didn't report last time is a woman by the name Nobel Peace Prize winner, Wangari Maathai, I think is how you say her name. She was at Oak Grove in 2009, and she had heard that she has written a book about planting like 1 billion trees and giving back, and something very simple to just give back to your community. And Laura Haskins had read this book with her 2nd grade classroom starting in like 2007, and then she was coming to Vermont, and Marlboro Elementary School, this is all my understanding, was doing a little like news capture, a little piece on her, and we found out that we were planting a tree in her honor in our back playground, and so she actually came to the school. It was a big press thing that she helped the kids in Laura's class in really cool school plant a tree in 2009. So Laura came to me at one point, she said, you know that tree in the backyard? And I'm like, which tree is that? Because, I wasn't there, so, So she said, she told me the whole story. She said, we still haven't put a plaque up for that tree. And I said, let's do it. What do you want? Let's get it done. So I went outside and I looked and I said, we need more than just a plaque. I mean, it's growing into a really pretty tree. So Greg Frost, who's our head of maintenance, is a great, builder, and he's just very talented. And I said, go order some lumber. I was driving to work one day and I said, this is what I want. So I had this vision and I got to work and I said, here's the tree. I just want this and this. And I said, you figure out how much lumber you need and I just want you build it. And it is beautiful. So come by the school and
What is it?
it's a bench. It's just a bench. It's like an octagonal bench that goes around, and it has a little plaque on the side to honor her. But it's, we have a lot of sunshine in our backyard. We don't have we don't have woods and places to go. So having a bench around it is large enough for a whole class to go out, and we've had classes that take their students out. They've already had like read alouds out there. Kids at recess, they're just like sitting under the tree, hanging out, and we did a all school sing, and we celebrated with them singing the state song and different things like that. So again, just to kind of bring it back to life in 2009, so that the kids are now aware that, wow, this tree has some special meaning. So that was really neat. So again, swing by and sit under the tree. It's quite peaceful. It's really nice. Certified teachers are all hired. They're all in place. I know special ed is looking for an intensive case manager for Oak Grove as part of the STEP program. And then I just recently had a para who is .75, and she's has turned in her resignation. So that's my really, that's something I think that's my only hope going into the summer.
And Jerry, did you get any comments or information back from parents on how they felt the preschool year went?
I don't have that right, here in front. I don't know that there's anything,
Okay.
in writing necessarily, but
Or
they
stuff
seem
that
to
they
be
said to
really
you?
happy. I know that there are families that were coming in because they were getting recommendations.
Okay.
Calls like, oh, you need to go visit the school. My child's had a great experience there.
Okay, perfect.
I mean, it was a growing time. When I talked to you in October, how's it going? I'm sure I was like, oh, well, they're little and they're there and we're trying to work it out. But we learned a lot, and we grew a lot as educators and as early educators, and how to include them. The kids grew, a lot as they do, and so we're ready. I mean, it's just, I can't imagine. It's kind of like having a new baby. It's like, oh, what did we ever do without, can't remember life without having a new baby. So now it's like I can't imagine life without having, 4-year-olds in our building. They're great. They're a sweet spot. They've taught us a whole lot, and so the team is really psyched and ready to go for next year. So.
If I could just add, the report I get back is that we ended on a high note. And the review that we had in April, the feedback, some of the feedback came from visiting that classroom, and we had high marks. So, and when you said we were full, my immediate thought was, so the word is out, and we'll probably have a wait list, which is kind of proof in the pudding.
Great.
I have 2. They're already on the list for 2019-20.
Oh, wow.
Those are sitting right there. They're like,
We're going to become like the big city and get in line and get on the list. Yes.
More general but related questions. Is the object to ultimately have preschool in every school?
So that's one of our questions for you on the August retreat. We had been charged with looking at building use, and one of the questions that we have been discussing, we being Mark, Deb, Kelly, Andy, Jerry, and I, okay, we're going to look at building use, but we need a little more direction. Is it the goal of the board to have pre-K at every school? Because that's going to also inform what we're thinking in terms of building use. So that is also on, all your questions tonight are on the agenda for August, it seems.
Then I would like just to put something out there for all the board and others to think about that will come up, is how will the inclusion, if that's the way we go, and I smell it coming, how is that going to impact the preschool, the whole preschool world in town?
So that was something else that we've been working on, is looking at the parents that send their kids to pre-K. Janice Stockman is actually our pre-K liaison. So she's also been a part of these meetings where we meant to talk about this. Looking at, are we attracting kids that are not presently in a program? Or are we taking kids? Because we don't want to take kids from providers. That's not our goal. Our goal is to provide an opportunity for children who may not already be in a pre-K program, or possibly parents who can't afford a full day pre-K program. So we're looking at that as well.
You're looking at that in terms of the students who are currently enrolled in pre-K and SU, or?
Janice has been talking with pre-K providers and looking at students that registered in kindergarten this year that were not in a pre-K program, and trying to ask those parents questions like, would you have been in a public pre-K?
I see. Yeah, because that was the other question I was going to ask, if administrators would be able to tell us how many entering kindergartners have not been to pre-K.
Yeah. And I think Janice Stockman has that.
Okay, she's collecting all that.
Yep.
Andy,
Joey actually has.
Andy, it's your last one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, it is.
You want me to do this first?
She has
Okay.
some hires.
I have two candidates to present to you. If you could pass those to the board. As promised, maybe we were joking a little bit last meeting, but I did make a flow chart because it's a little bit confusing about how we arrived at these positions.
Okay.
We've had a lot of movement. So at the last meeting, Andy informed you that we had a grade 3 vacancy posted. So if you look in that first column on the left, about halfway down, that's where we had arrived after learning that Colleen Carasquillo was leaving the grade 1 AST. So after that grade 3 was posted, one of our 5th grade teachers, Tess Peterson, applied and was one of the applicants who we interviewed, and we decided that her skill set matched our position. So we hired her for 3rd grade. That left her current 5th grade open. So that was posted. And we would like to hire a woman named Jane Guidel for that position. Her resume is included for you. She's been teaching 3rd grade at Northfield Elementary for the past 7 years or so. Actually longer than that, since 2007. I spoke to her principal, who raved about her and was very sad to see her go. She has a wonderful rapport with her students and colleagues as well. She's participated in a lot of staff development and leadership, and we're really excited to bring her on board.
I move that we accept the hire of Jane Guidel.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Any discussion?
But just a question, do either of these involve, for a better word, genealogy, relationships in?
Nope, no relation to me or anyone that I know of, actually.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right. Number 2?
Also in that packet, if you go over to Team Bielsi's 1-year leave, we've been interviewing for the 1-year 5th grade position. Teen is on a 1-year leave to be a district math coach. And so we have a 1-year position open. Michael Lonergan, who is currently teaching English at BAMS, has applied, and we would like to hire him for that position. And I did speak to a couple of his references as listed here. I actually really enjoyed this new form because I got to quote the references, and they were so wonderful to talk to, and just really painted a beautiful picture of these candidates. So I'm gonna let you read those, but one I would like to highlight is that someone feels he was born to be a teacher, he cares deeply and connects to kids.
Do I have a motion?
I move that we accept the hire of Michael Lonergan for 5th grade at Agave School.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And just on a side note, Michael took the varsity girls lacrosse team to almost to the finals this year.
Good flow chart too,
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
I worked hard on my arrows.
You kept almost solving your own problem from within the school,
Yeah.
except that there was one person missing at the end of it all.
We called it the staff shuffle.
Yeah.
My teacher skills came in handy.
So, a couple of things, well, one thing to report really, and that is, well, 2 things. On Monday night, we all had our 6th grade moving up ceremony.
With no power in some
That's
schools.
right, we lost, ours was scheduled at 6:30, and at 5 o'clock, that storm hit and we lost power. So we had no electricity for the entire event. And, but it worked out great.
Didn't skip a beat.
Everybody chipped in and did what they had to do, and they went really well. Rather warm in our gym, but it was a good night, and I think everyone really appreciated it even more because it was memorable, you know, in the dark. A little bit of panic between 5 and maybe 5 and 6:30, trying to get everything going. We did need a PA system, but we were able to get it going through a generator and so forth. But good night. And our SBAC student scores have come back now. So we are mailing ours out this week. Most of those will hit parent mailboxes in the next day or so.
We got ours today.
You got yours today?
Wow.
You're smiling, so
Oh,
I know.
yes.
I thought you would.
I got smart kids.
Thought you would. So glad to get those out. The school-wide data and statewide, school district and statewide data has not come back yet. But by having all the school stuff, I mean all the individual stuff, I was able to calculate our school stuff and have a report that our scores in both literacy and math have gone up from last year. Last year was a year we dipped. And early in the year, I think we mentioned to the board that we were concerned about that dip. And we tried to identify what was the cause, and we had a couple of concerns. One was staff turnover, and were we training people enough, new teachers enough, especially younger or newer, teachers newer to the field, were they getting sufficient training? So we really worked on that as a school and as a district this year and in the future. So as a school and district, we're proud to say that we're really looking at additional training for new hires, whether they're first year or 10th year. Because a lot of what we do now is very complicated work. So happy about that. Also want to thank the board for your support for 12 years. This is my last board meeting here. And also want to thank you for your generosity with the separation benefit. Much appreciated, and your support over the years has been very much appreciated. Thank you.
Andy, we thank you. I know David has been on longer, but the amount of time that I've been on, it's been a joy to work with you, as with all of the administrators. But we are happy to have Kelly, but we will miss you.
Just starting to settle in that you're not going to be here.
Molly working?
He will be laughing at us when we meet in August.
Is Donna back in town? I haven't seen her.
No, but I just got one of her projects from 10 years ago. From 2014.
Well, one of the things,
Tuesday and Saturday.
one of the things I will comment about this board is that over the years, it's not always been smooth. There've been issues, but this board was always willing to confront them and address them. And Dave, you and I probably disagreed and argued more than anyone else, any other, at least for me, anyone else. But we've always sometimes at the farmers market have had discussions and conversations and worked them out, because I think bottom line is everyone who's come to this table has come and put kids first and figured out how to get on common ground to support our kids in Brattleboro. So I really also appreciate that.
Well, and your openness in terms of sharing your experience and your understanding of these things has helped us all grow, and the whole system too. So, thanks.
We thank you for your service. All right.
Let's go home.
Yeah, unfortunately, we all have to sign our lives over here, I think. 1% applications.
They are.
Oh, actually, do we have anything unfinished other business? We have the meeting for, we don't know the time yet for the state meeting? I know the dates came out.
Don't know the time.
Okay.
September 19th in Chester is what is in the south. But we do not know.
They almost always start at 9, but
Yeah.
who knows, it may be a longer
They
day.
go alphabetical and last.
And when I looked at on the state board, we were either last or next to last. And
Yeah.
if they go according to, like you said, they go alphabetical.
All right. New business 1% applications.
So I'll let the principals talk about them, but we have 1% from each of the schools. Did you want to talk about each individual one? How do we usually do this? This is my first time through this.
I mean, did everybody get and
All
review
80
them
pages?
Yeah.
online?
Yeah.
Because I know I went through them.
Yeah.
I can't get one, I don't bring them, what's
Generally, the board will just ask questions if they have
Yeah,
questions.
I think, yeah, we don't go through and explain everyone.
I think the only thing that we
Towns I can't read.
look at is to make sure that there's a balance between how much each school is spending proportionate to the
Yeah.
students, and that there's something left for the fall, so that if something really important comes along.
And I think we did that, we made sure it's proportional,
Yeah.
and sometimes we have to limit it to a certain number of days, which.
So if we approve this now, everybody on that list, we saw, all those things will be approved, everyone.
Well, you don't have to approve them as a parcel.
But that's what we're doing, right?
Well, you can.
Yeah.
You can speak about them individually.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you have any questions about any of
Yeah.
them.
yeah, no, I didn't read them that carefully.
It's interesting to see how they change over the years, and but the thing that stays the same is you can kind of see that these people are thinking, we've been working on these things all year, and they know there's some things that need to be focused on, and so that's what they're asking us. There's a bunch of work we need to get done for the summer. So it's great that we have this in place. That this, at the end of the year, you can say, okay, what do we really need to be doing over the summer to be prepared?
And I feel like the principals keep a good eye to make sure that what teachers are putting in for really is coordinated with what our focus is at schools, and it's not something that's way off base from what we're working on.
Has there ever been an instance in which there was something that there was some consensus that people wanted to get done, and said, can we find a teacher that would do it and use 1% funds?
Can you be more specific?
Well, instead, right now, the way it works is the teachers themselves make an application as they find something that they want to do. Now, could the board or the administration ask or say, here's something we would like a teacher to go and learn about and come back with an education for themselves and us, and it can be approved, it can be funded through the 1%.
Could work that way.
It is in the, this is a contractual matter, it's in the master agreement, and the language is board members have, you can develop a project and ask for it to be approved as 1% grant.
Yeah, if there was something that we really wanted to have happen, we could write a grant and try to facilitate that happening. I don't know that we can necessarily assign staff to it, but.
Well, I just
You
meant,
could ask for volunteers.
Yeah,
You could.
using 1% funds, there's a lot of sources of money, they can include your budget or whatever, but using 1% funds specifically. But you're saying that can be done?
Yes,
Yeah.
and you could do it for yourselves as a board or as a board member. You could write a 1% to attend a
Oh.
board conference.
So what do you know?
Or a
I can go to a
project.
town or something.
Yeah.
You could go to Germany, you could go to
It's
Germany.
One-way ticket.
Somebody's going to Europe.
Going to Germany.
I saw it.
All right.
Learn French and work with the,
Yeah.
But they probably need a board member on that.
Volunteer. All right, so do we want to just approve these en masse?
I move that we approve the 1% proposals as submitted.
Seconded?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
So you need three
Yes.
signatures on each one.
Yes.
Does Jill need to be one of them?
Nope.
Oh, you can.
Yes.
Yeah, we can't do that tonight.
3 signatures on each application.
Yes.
Okay.
Each one.
Do you want to pass it one?
There's one right there, yes.
Okay, go on.
And I'll give this one to Spoon and start with that one. All right.
what is this?
We need to sign.
Sign where.
Each of the.
You can sign where the
okay.
clerk is.
Yes.
You can sign where where it says clerk on each form. It's
On the second page?
right here,
No,
it's
right
right
in the
here.
front.
Right
It
on the
says to be
front.
completed by school board, and then there's
okay.
like chairman,
Yeah.
clerk,
I see
and
it.
member.
All right. Did you already do the EES board governance? Over EES policy LBP
No, that was
-8.
that was the shared governance
Okay.
document. Actually don't have it in front of me, and I'm forgetting why actually, I think what we talked about was that we wanted to have you take a look at it, and we have not had a policy council meeting since our joint meeting 2 weeks ago. But I can certainly respond to any questions. I think I gave you, thank you, the, kind of the intro into why we need it, and also that we've never had, not that it couldn't happen, but we've never had a situation where we've needed to actually implement this policy, but it's something that's required of every Head Start program with their grantee. And it's something that we should be looking at periodically. Now, this may change with the idea of having a merged board, and that you will no longer be the grantee. So I think we did talk about that. So we'll look at it and we will prepare for it as we look at it today, but know that we need to transfer it when the
Well,
board's
actually, you don't
merged.
need to until after November, because
Right.
the state board has to still finalize the plan, and that's still, that's not complete.
Okay.
So actually, it would be pretty inappropriate to do preparation or do
Yeah.
any work like that
Right.
administratively, since the governance is still not certain.
And then even then, it'll be July 19th.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we
well,
need
yeah,
something.
there may
We should
be,
have
when if the
something.
state, whenever the state, by the end of November, I think they have to approve it, and then there may be some other steps, there'd have to be an election to have a board,
Okay.
and then they would have to, well, anyway, long ways to go.
Okay, so
Yes.
we
You can
need
relax, you
something
can take a deep
until that
breath.
happens.
Yeah.
Okay, so, as I said, there are some roles, and I did say that I would crosswalk this with the performance standards, which I didn't do, but I have enough knowledge that I can guide you through it. There are some areas that the board has the ultimate responsibility, and others that are shared with policy council. And so from a very broad view, the day-to-day operations of the Head Start and Early Head Start program really are the charge of the director and the management team. Hiring and firing of staff members, with the exception of the director and the fiscal manager, are the responsibility of policy council. Any recommendations from the director and the fiscal manager need the approval of the board. All the grants and funding applications need your approval. As you know, I bring them to you. They need your signature. Any huge changes that are done to our personnel policies will go from policy council approval to the board. Share procedures about implementation of shared decision-making is what we're doing tonight. Writing impasse procedures is what we're doing tonight. Written composition of policy council. That is basically, that's our bylaws and written procedures for selection to policy council. And I do not believe that that needs to come to the board, so I'll need to check on that. I have not done that. You are no longer required to approve the program philosophy and goals or the procedures for program planning. You are responsible for hiring or terminating the EES director. The shared decision-making process, as we have had in place for some time, is that that the management level of EES initiates parent input on decisions that are relevant. Basically, that's done through our policy council board. And then those things that are relevant that I just highlighted above would come to both boards and or one or the other. And you get them in advance notice so that you have time to review them and then vote on them at the upcoming meeting. And then if there was an impasse, then we would use the shared decision-making or impasse procedure to resolve the issue. And I gave an example of that last time we met, where somewhere in the country, a Head Start program, the Policy Council did not approve of the budget that was going to be part of the refunding application. The board kind of tried to supersede that decision and submitted it to the federal government, and the Policy Council protested and really, was up in arms about it. And ultimately, that program was actually kind of, they were sort of frozen in their ability to operate until the board and the policy council could reconcile their differences and come up with an agreed upon budget. So that's really what prompted the idea that there needed to be a conflict resolution policy. The statement of intent in your packet is basically talks about the board's role, and this is all kind of boilerplate language, and it speaks back to the performance standards. Now, under Head Start program management, all of those things certainly are the responsibility of the program managers, and those are things that in some cases require your approval, and in other cases it's for information only. For instance, our strategic plan, our program goals, those kinds of things I bring to you as a product of the work that your management team does, and I also bring it to you for your input in your review, so that it's a transparent process. And then, as I said earlier, the day-to-day program management is really the responsibility of the director and the management team. A lot of that is just really articulating what we do. It's really spelling out the kinds of pieces of information that I bring to you, and whether or not they require your approval or whether it's for information only. So now, on the document that's titled Resolving Conflict Between Head Start Policy Council and Brattleboro Town School District, that might be where we really focus our energy. And the way that it reads now is, should an unresolved conflict occur between the Head Start Policy Council and the Brattleboro Town School District concerning an issue requiring the shared decision-making of both groups, the following procedure will apply. A, within 7 days of the occurrence of the conflict, the group with the conflict will present the issue in writing to the other group. B, within 7 days of submitting, it should read, the issue in writing, the Executive Committee of the Policy Council and an ad hoc committee appointed by the chair of the Brattleboro Town School District will meet to discuss proposed solutions and to attempt to resolve the conflict. C, if the conflict is not resolved within 7 days of step B, what I just read. Head Start will obtain an outside mediator or personnel from the ACF regional office, that's the Boston office, who will meet with the parties involved in Step B as soon as possible to discuss proposed solutions and to attempt to resolve the conflict. D, Brattleboro Town School District, as the duly elected body of the school system, will have final decision-making roles if steps A, B, and C do not result in resolution. This was before my time, but I do believe that an attorney was used to actually develop this policy with the board. That's what I was told. So are there changes? Do you want to change this?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the only thing we have to change is we have to review it every year and see if we
Right.
still like it.
Yes.
Right. Okay, the next document is procedures for resolving internal disputes, impasse procedures.
This is internal within EES.
All right, so it doesn't, so I mean, it's there for your pleasure, but it's not really,
Right, I think
it needs
that's,
action.
I think the one that you just
Yeah.
talked about was
Okay.
the more important one.
Yeah, and then the program planning procedures, again, that's still in place. I mean, and part of that is you'll see the community assessment is part of the title. That's the World Cafe that we're doing on Monday.
These are reports from some of the percents from
And
spring.
then this talks about how we share information. I think I would like to actually look at that closer because we've become more technological and we don't necessarily post minutes everywhere anymore, it's all on our, so I'd like to look at that a little more, but everything else in the packet, I think, I bring to you a recommendation that it's status quo.
Do we need to do anything with that, Lyle, or no? I think we're, okay.
So then do we need to have, just in the minutes, that it was reviewed and the same?
I think that's
Okay.
what we decided last time. And
Okay.
we're just going to-
Thank you, Lyle.
Here we go. Those are excited as well. All right. So, administrative permission for summer hiring. I know in the past, we have always authorized the administrators to make hirings whilst we're on our break, seeing it is 2 months until our next meeting. So I don't know if we want to make a motion on that, then we can discuss it.
Sure. I move that we approve, is that the word I want to use?
Yes.
I move that we approve all administrators to make summer hires as needed.
Or authorize.
Okay,
Yes.
I didn't
Yeah,
say
that's
that
better,
right.
right?
I
It's
move
better.
that we authorize all administrators to make summer hires as needed.
Second.
Discussion. Any discussion? Okay, nice and easy. All in favor? Aye. All right. Next agenda items. I know you have a list, Lyle. So we can go over this and we can add as needed.
So we had talked last time about measuring goals and defining what is a good education, looking at current continuous improvement plans, the salary comparison that we discussed earlier between EES employees and Brattleboro Town School District, the space study report, looking at priorities for ensuring right-sized staffing, which
Or
was
processes.
looking at processes for ensuring right-sized staffing, the integrated field review and look at the recommendations, and actually we may want to look at that in conjunction with the continuous improvement plans, because some of those will have been.
And the staffing.
And the staffing, basically. Social work positions, how they're working, what we want them to do, how to collaborate with other agencies and stakeholders, and how the school works with families and supports parents. So those were the topics that we discussed, and things that we wanted to accomplish of the work plan for next year. We reviewed our goals from last year and set goals for this year. So it's possible from that first list that I read, we may decide that we want to put some of those into the work plan so that we spend a good chunk of time throughout the year. So,
I'd like to add one to that list. Board meeting protocol.
Well, something that might actually fit into that is adding, how to add agenda items between meetings. Or to request, I guess, rather than that.
Is this gonna be like a 3-day retreat?
Sounds
No, we're gonna cram
Well,
most
some
of
of
it
this,
into the work
from what
plan.
Ryle said is that we'll be like, let's discuss this in depth at our October
Right,
meeting.
we'll set it, yeah, we'll
Full
set it.
discussion of some of the
Yeah.
things.
Did you have anything you wanted to add, Robin?
No, I think that seems
Okay.
good.
All right. All right. Sounds good. We will come back to what you wanted to bring up at the beginning of the meeting.
Oh, yeah.
We'll skip over to the other.
Okay,
and-
then we'll do that because I
Yeah.
want to make sure we have the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I just want to say, by not expecting this, but I just happened today to be listening to a lecture given, or a presentation, I'm not quite sure, at the, to a gathering or symposium or something of child psychologists and psychiatrists at the New York State Psychiatric Hospital or something, which is a big place. I've been down there. Anyway, it was about mental health. And it was approaching the subject not from the medicinal or from the dealing with the after, but the preventative side of it. And talking about the extraordinary amount of mental health problems in this country, and how much of it originates out of poverty, as we know. And there was a lot in it about causes and then causes of causes and stuff like that. That's all part of it. But it talked about a huge survey done of like 17,000 women, in which they all talked about all the things that happened in their lives. And it began to correlate childhood trauma with lifespan, and actually beginning to see very clear patterns of how much effect a single traumatic event may have, and then realizing that once you reach a point where a child has had as many as 7 or more traumatic events, typically can lead to a lifespan reduction of about 30% because of all the ensuing mental problems and
Anxiety-related health issues.
and the stress that came from that. And it was really a startling lecture. It was a very plain, because it came out from a public health perspective rather than a psychiatric perspective. And so that really focused a lot of the stuff that I heard a few months ago down at the Green Street School that we were hearing. And so I just want to mention that, just how direct of a link it is between traumatic experience and lifespan and mental health, mental illness, and all of the other things. And then, of course, while I'm listening to that, I'm seeing that picture of that 2-year-old girl down in Texas, being taken away from her mother, and thinking, even if these people end up staying here, they're gonna be problems.
That's right.
And then there was one other point, and I just wondered, maybe this is something. It also talked about in trying to, there was another aspect of it, talking about some game that was played. It was an experiment. done in some number of classrooms. It was some kind of a behavioral game in which a class was divided up into 3 or 4 teams, 5 or 6 or 7 students. And throughout the year, they get a point for every time. There are rules for good behavior. You don't bully, you don't call names, da-da-da-da-da. And then you would get a point for each time that you did something that fit into that illustrated a good behavior rule, and you lost a point every time someone on your team, so the whole team either won points or lost points. And what that was doing was creating peer pressure among the kids themselves to behave well so that their team won points, and then they won at the end, more points, got a prize. But the experiment that was done in several schools showed a remarkable correspondence with what went on in these children's lives later in life. And I don't know whether we do anything like that here.
Well, the study that you're referring to is the ACEs study,
Yeah.
which is Adverse Childhood Experiences. And when our counselors were here a while ago, that they talked about, I know Mark is, there's also a movie that's Green Street's watched, we've watched, that's called Resilience. Deb watched it at EES, and you guys watched it. So, and it's all looking at these childhood experiences that can definitely have an impact on life expectancy, on other things, but certainly what we're seeing, in our schools today. So,
And that game that you just described, they did that pretty much exactly in my son's second grade class. And I'm sure that those teachers didn't come up with that in a void either, that it's probably something that other staff members use in various configurations, I'm guessing.
All right. That was just my day at school.
Yeah, and if you want to send the link to the board members
Yeah.
for what you
I'll
read,
see if
that
I
way we
can
can
find
read it.
Yeah.
So, and then,
The Green Street has a copy of the movie Resilience.
okay.
People would like to borrow that. It's
Oh.
pretty
Actually,
incredible study.
definitely.
Just email me.
Perfect.
And Tracy Benet-Heron is an ACES trainer, so
Trainer,
she
yeah.
could come and talk to groups about it.
Right, and just back up to G, confirmation of the location and time of the next meeting. And I believe it is August, I'm just looking at my phone. It doesn't want to load.
23rd.
23rd.
23rd, yes.
Sister's birthday.
And where is it going to be at?
Well,
Do
this
we
one
want to
says
do it
December.
here?
I thought we were thinking here because it's air
Yes,
conditioned.
air conditioned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what time
So-
is it?
3, or is
3
it
to
2?
7.
Or is it
I had 2.
at 3?
You had it too?
2 to 6, or 2 to 6.
Yeah, that's what
How many hours are we allocating?
Oh, it's like 4.
4?
Yep.
2
2 to 6?
We'll eat in
Okay.
the middle of it.
Yes.
Yes.
So is it 3?
Everybody else had it at 2 to 6, so.
I did too, but I didn't know that we finalized it.
No, well, we are now.
Now we are.
Now we are.
It's 2 to 6.
I can be there because I get out at 1, so I will be there for 2. Okay. That's 2 p.m. Reading 3. All right. Anything else anybody wanted to bring up? Or I will happily take an adjournment motion before 7 o'clock.
Great job, you did. Hey, really? I'm gonna have to
You're
make
going to
sure
have to give
Jill
Jill a
knows.
lesson.
Do I get a motion?
I hope that we make
No, we
sure.
gotta wait till late, till Jane will feel bad.
So motion, so
All
motion.
right, second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a fabulous summer.
Yeah.